DC Cast Explosion Over Time, discussing all things DC Comics related. Let's talk about everything happening in Metropolis, Gotham, and beyond. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me today, Dylan Blight.
Brace myself for whatever weird question you got for me.
Question without notice. Do you reckon Superman gets hot wearing the suit underneath his normal Clark Kent clothes? And how does he fit a cape under there without anybody noticing?
I mean, Clark Kent wears baggy clothes, right?
Yeah, I guess.
He's more of a baggy dressing dude. Mm-hmm. He's not like a finely fitted suit sort of guy. So I feel like that's the answer, you know? Does he get hot? No.
No, I guess it wouldn't. I don't think he feels any temperature, right?
No.
Because you see him fly up into space. He's not getting cold.
Yeah. No, exactly.
He's not going to the Antarctic or whatever, you know?
Mm.
So, odd. All right, today we're talking about Superman Returns, the most recent film with Superman in the title of the film. Yeah, you had to think about it.
Batman v Superman?
Fuck. It's true. But the most recent one that we're going to talk about in this podcast. Done. Yeah. All right, let's dive in. Now that I've been shamed. Please be aware we're freely discussing anything and everything about plot themes and ending of the movie. So if you haven't watched it, come back later. With that said, let's talk about Superman Returns.
Clark, hey, welcome back. I see you've already met the Munchkin.
Hello. Yeah, well, you've been gone. Fearless reporter Lois Lane is a mommy. But if you ask me, she's still in love with you-know-who.
How could you leave us like that? I moved on. So did the rest of us. The world doesn't need a savior. And neither do I. Lex Luthor.
This is kind of a little reunion, isn't it? Heck, I'm a fan. I'll have advanced technology. Thousands of years beyond what anyone could throw at me.
But millions of people will die.
Billions!
You wrote that the world doesn't need a savior, but every day I hear people crying for one.
Come on, let me hear you say it just once.
You're insane.
No! No, the other thing.
Superman will never.
Originally released 28th of June 2006. Directed by Bryan Singer. Screenplay by Michael Dougherty and Dan Harris. Story by Bryan Singer and Michael Dougherty and Dan Harris. Based on characters appearing in comic books published by DC Comics. Starring Brandon Routh, Kate Bosworth, James Marsden, Frank Langella, Eva Marie Saint, Parker Posey, Cal Penn, Sam Huntington, and Kevin Spacey. While Lex Luthor plots to destroy him once and for all, the Man of Steel returns after a long absence to a much-changed world. Lois Lane has moved on from her life, and society has learned to survive without him. Superman must find a way to reconnect with her and find his place in a world that may no longer need him. Dylan, what are your thoughts on Superman Returns?
I'd say it's an interesting movie. I was trying to think. Just looking, I would have been like 13 when I watched it the first time. So I'll say, like, when I watched it the first time, I wasn't really a big fan. I definitely fell into this is too slow, not as action heavy as the other superhero films that we were having at the time. Obviously, they come across a lot more exciting. When I rewatched it a few years later when I was a bit older, sort of appreciated it a bit more for its and understood how it was trying to be a bit more in tone with the original Superman movie, keep the tone, pacing and vibe of that movie continuing throughout this, and I think it definitely achieves that. I think that to me the problems with the movie is just that none of the like, I don't think Brandon Routh and Kate Bosworth have great chemistry when you compare them to Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve. I don't think that Gene Hackman version of Lex Luthor are anywhere near the same, and I think Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor is kind of boring, and also doesn't come across. He also doesn't just have like any good chemistry of anyone in the movie, I guess. It's just it's a weird mix of people. I think on this rewatch, the standout was Parker Posey, who I forgot was in this, who was really good. But I mean, Brandon Routh, I think is a good Superman. I just think the movie he got, the plot is relatively thin and sort of jumps the shark at the end with its whole kryptonite rebuild the world plot thing, whatever Lex is up to. That once it like sort of hits that point, I'm like, oh, I don't know where the hell we are going now. I think everything before that is sort of just more interesting on the getting to see people discuss and getting to learn about a world without Superman for 5 years. That was more interesting than what Lex actually does towards the end of the movie. Yeah, sort of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I have as nostalgia for this. This is the first Superman movie I ever watched. Like, obviously, I'd been watching Smallville and had watched Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman. But this is the first like big screen film that I watched with Superman in it. So I enjoyed it enough for the first time I watched it, and then learning the story behind it and how it was like trying to do what Superman the movie was doing with the romance and not be this. It's very weird because obviously this is on the back of the Bryan Singer doing the first two X-Men movies, and those are much more action-heavy movies and that kind of stuff. You're kind of expecting Superman to be a similar thing, but this is more like, again, like this weird drama romance story. And then I also appreciate him kind of doing the inverse of Lex Luthor's plot from the first movie, where he's trying to destroy a piece of land to make all his land valuable. He's just going to create a bunch of land to make a bunch of money. But yeah, I think Kate Bosworth is not. I think she's the weakest link. It's like, like at the start, she tries to do that Margot Kidder thing of like, oh, how many Fs are there in Catastrophe, and like trying to elicit her as character, but she can't. She doesn't have any of that sass or anything that you like. We've seen, like we saw, like Terry Hatcher in the TV show. She had more. She was closer to Margot Kidder than Lois Lane, and even I'm sure like Eric Durant's in the Smallville TV show is like much more Lois Lane than this. So it's probably the worst Lois Lane. Sorry.
I think you're right though.
Yeah. That, or you could just say that that's what happens when you become a mom and you just become a completely different person. You're not yourself anymore. Can't be the same person you were before you had a kid. And that whole storyline's crazy and bizarre, and odd. Yeah, I mean, it's enjoyable. I have nostalgia. I think Brandon Routh is good as Superman. I enjoyed him, and he's just, obviously they lost complete faith because it didn't do crazy numbers at the box office for the amount of money they spent on the film. I would have liked to have seen him do have another run at the character, but what are you gonna do? So, yeah. Well, let's just run through the plot, and I'm sure we'll have a bunch of other talking points. So let's go. Superman has been missing 5 years ever since he traveled to the location where astronomers believed they discovered the remains of Krypton. What interesting way to kind of set up. So we should, like, from memory, this is did the retcon thing where it's like the first two movies happened.
They say the first two movies happened.
Yeah.
They chose to ignore anything after that,
which doesn't surprise me because obviously Bryan Singer worked with the Donners on the first two X-Men movies. So it's like those are the ones we want to consider canon, His arch nemesis, Lex Luthor, has been recently released from prison and married a rich widow to obtain her fortune upon her death. Yep. Having failed to find any surviving Kryptonians, Superman returns to Earth and resumes his job at the Daily Planet Metropolis. That old lady saying, "You show me so much pleasure." Come on. What's he doing? Yeah. Having failed to find...
It's just the fact. I think it's just the fact he wears a wig to
woo her.
Yeah.
And then just as soon as she's dead, drops the ring in her denture cup, I think.
Yep.
And it just gives the wig to the youngest of the grandchildren. Crazy. Yes, so having failed to find any Kryptonians, Superman returns to Earth and resumes his job at the Daily Planet in Metropolis as his alter ego Clark Kent.
No one noticed those two were gone at the same time, eh?
Yeah, what a coincidence. Like, you just went traveling for 5 years and never came back, You weren't doing any work in that time, so, not up to date with the current events, but we'll give you a job here at the Daily Planet because someone died. There he learns that the woman he loves, Lois Lane, is engaged to Perry White's nephew, Richard, with whom she has a 5-year-old son named Jason. She also won the Pulitzer Prize for her article, Why the World Doesn't Need Superman. Which is interesting because apparently the article must have just been written because they're later in the movie, they're going to like a ceremony for her winning the Pulitzer Prize. So she waited 5 years to write the article.
Yeah.
Bizarre. It's crazy that James Marsden's in this movie as well. That's why he's not in the third X-Men film. But yeah, I mean, I guess he's like a solid foil, I guess, or opposite to Superman. And we never saw like a romantic rival for Superman in the other movies. So
no, and they don't try to really pit them against each other. He's presented as just the
other guy,
the everyday nice guy. That's the opposite to Superman, I guess. Yeah.
Just situations. Anyway, Luthor travels to the Fortress of Solitude and steals Kryptonian crystals, which he uses for an experiment that causes a power outage on the East Coast. The power loss interferes with the flight test of a space shuttle to be launched into space from its piggyback mounting on an airliner, occupied by Lois Lane, who is covering the story.
There's a couple crazy things here. A, that Cal Penn's in this movie. And,
yes.
B, that I've never fully understood what the fuck this spaceship plan was.
Well, the idea is the plane's already all the way up that far.
Mm-hmm.
It dismounts from the plane and then uses its thrusters to go further up into space. I guess it uses less energy than, or less fuel than taking off from the ground.
So even if they did that, the backfire of the ship would destroy the plane anyway.
Normally, it would just not be attached, so there would there would be some level of separation.
So they detach, they let it fall until it's away from the airplane?
Like the plane, it is traveling at such a speed that it would float or glide for a certain amount of time. Maybe there's a reason that this is not something that Elon has been have been attempting. You know what I mean? Or this movie set back space travel so far because they thought it was a disaster and they're like, no, that's not going to work because the Superman Returns.
If they could do it, Elon would do it. You know, he's the guy.
I feel like he's an old school dude. If we're not coming
Elon,
from the ground,
then... Elon Musk's pretty similar to
Lex Luthor, yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Clark flies into action as Superman, launching the shuttle into the sky and stopping the plane from crashing. Kind of. I mean, technically. The plane is pretty much disintegrated. in the process. And Lois Lane gets out of it without concussion, despite being flopped all around that plane.
And he makes sure to land it right in the middle of a baseball game, so
Everyone can
there's
see.
lots of adoring fans.
He's like, "Oh, I should probably move this out. I should probably move this somewhere else." That, you know.
So I need everyone to know I'm back.
Yeah, that's what this was really about. This is true. You know. Yeah, and he does the line. You know, I hope this doesn't put you off flying because air travel is still the safest way. Callback. The world rejoices at Superman's return, though he has difficulty coping with the fact that those he was once close with have moved on from him. When Superman is distracted by an out-of-control vehicle, a diversion involving Luthor's henchwoman Kitty Kowalski, Luthor steals kryptonite from the National Museum of History. Perry assigns Lois to interview Superman, while Clark investigates the blackout. Lois and Jason inadvertently board Luthor's yacht and are captured after Lois decides to hold interest in the blackout story, which she connects to Luthor's experiment. As usual, jumping over a whole bunch of stuff, including Clark trying to woo her on the roof. Finally having a discussion about, hey, we've been apart for 5 years. You know, explaining his side of the story. You know. And they're eating wraps.
Again, they just don't have the chemistry to make any of it work.
Yeah. Also, we don't get they don't talk about how stalkery Clark is in this at the start. Like,
he's very stalkery.
Very stalkery, you know, very Smallville, you know.
Yeah.
Just peering through the windows, seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lois and Jason inadvertently board Luthor's yacht and are captured after Lois decides to hold interest in the blackout story, which she connects to Luthor's experiments. He reveals to them his plan to use one of the stolen Kryptonian crystals, which he has combined with the kryptonite to grow a new landmass in the Atlantic Ocean that will supplant the United States and kill billions of people. Solid plan. Yeah. Seeing young Jason seemingly have a reaction to kryptonite, I don't know that he had a reaction, other than he was just looking at it.
He's just looking at it, going, "What the fuck is that?"
It's green. I haven't seen many green crystals, you know. Luthor asks Lois who is his father. Lois asserts that the father is Richard. The crystal begins to create Luthor's landmass while Lois attempts to escape, but is attacked by one of Luthor's henchmen. However, she is saved by Jason, who throws a piano at the man and kills him, confirming the Superman is his father.
Do we know he's dead?
I'm pretty sure he took a piano to the face, and all the other henchmen say he's dead.
Okay, just clarifying.
I do enjoy the build-up to this, obviously, with little Jason playing the piano, heart and soul, and then the henchman comes up and starts playing with him after taking off his hat as a clown. What's that a reference to? And her trying to fax their location. And then
turn Find My iPhone on. Fuck.
Yeah, I know. And yet, like, when you stop hearing him playing the piano, it's like, oh fuck, she's in trouble. You know. But yeah, that piano comes out of nowhere. How was they to know?
Yeah. So Superman can fuck.
Apparently. Meanwhile, Superman attempts to minimize the destruction of Metropolis caused by the new landmass's growth, and Richard pilots a seaplane to rescue Lois and Jason. Confronting Luthor, Superman is weakened by a landmass since it is filled with kryptonite, allowing Luthor and his henchmen to torture and brutalize him. Superman is stabbed with a shard of kryptonite into the ocean and is left to drown, but is rescued by Lois and Richard. I remember getting very emotional during this, like, Superman getting beaten up and like
they beat the fuck out of him.
Yeah.
This
person who
it's pretty brutal
has not really bled and been nervous, and like you see him sweat, and like I think Parker Posey's performance in this section as well, like kind of helps. Like you feel the empathy that
it's like the lines being crossed. She's seeing this torture happen, and even for her, she's like, "Oh no, this is what I signed up for."
Yeah. After Lois removes the kryptonite shard from his body, Superman regains his strength and lifts the landmass after putting layers of earth between him and the kryptonite. I don't know if that's what I thought was happening.
Blocked kryptonite, but
yeah, he just put a bunch of lava at the bottom, and it cooled, so he could lift the planet up. Yeah, as you do. Luthor's henchmen are killed, but Luthor and Kitty escape in their helicopter, only to let billions of people die. Kitty tosses away the crystals that Lex stole from the Fortress of Solitude before their helicopter runs out of fuel, leaving them stranded on a deserted island. Superman pushes the landmass with the crystals into space. Weakened by the kryptonite, he crashes back to Earth. At the hospital, after removing another shard of kryptonite from Superman's body, doctors learn that they cannot penetrate his skin with surgical tools, and he remains in a coma. Shocking. Why are they surprised that their needle did not poke the skin of Superman? Jeez. While visiting Superman, Lois whispers something into his ear and kisses him. Superman awakens and visits the sleeping Jason, to whom he recites the last speech from his late biological father, Jor-El. As Lois starts writing an article entitled "Why the World Needs Superman," Superman assures her that he is back to stay and flies off to low orbit, where he gazes down on the world. Yep.
Yep.
I mean, there's not much else to say. I mean, I will point out I really enjoyed Frank Langella as Perry White. I think he does a great job. And Sam Huntington as Jimmy Olsen. You know, he's got fun energy. And also, I think it's very funny that there's the thing where like someone with a smartphone takes a picture, like a camera phone, like a flip phone, takes a photo of Superman. And it's a really good photo. That's unrealistic. Not in 2004, 2006. You gotta wait till our first iPhone comes out. And then, no, you need to wait till like a few versions of the iPhone come out. You know,
several years. Yeah.
Yeah. Before that, you know. But yeah. Again, shout out to Parker Posey. He's really fantastic. And then also former Australian rugby league player and turned actor Ian Roberts, who's in this film, and just walks into the back of frames constantly, holding a camera. Very funny to me.
What?
There's the dude who's got the handy cam.
Oh, right, yeah.
One of the henchmen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a former Australian, like a rugby league player.
Oh,
because obviously
right,
this was shot in Australia. So...
Was he trying to be an actor, or did they just randomly?
I think they just cast him.
Okay.
Yeah, so crazy. But all he does is just walk into frame occasionally and hold the camera, and then just gets told not to.
Yeah, most probably in that the test scene, I guess.
Test scene, yeah. Anything else you want to talk about from Superman Returns?
Yeah, music is good.
Yep. We're using the score and then I mean, it is crazy that it's probably the number one issue with Superman, where he is overpowered and he is strong as he is needed in the moment. He's able to move this massive landmass and throw it into space, despite it being filled with kryptonite and affecting him. But he could not bring the plane down in one piece early in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's
You're struggling with that.
It's not the first. Superman's powers have fluctuated with necessity, is it?
Necessity, yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Any thoughts? No? Covered everything?
I think we covered everything. I forgot that Michael Dougherty was a writer on these early X-Men movies, and this.
Yeah.
I was watching this. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. One other thing. Obviously, at the start of the movie, he gets back to the farm on Smallville. Martha Kent is alive in these ones, rather than dying off at the end of before Quest of Peace. And you get, obviously, there's that cool flashback of him like running through the cornfields and just jumping everywhere, falling through the shed. But then the dog comes along and gives him a baseball to throw. He wants to go fetch it, and then Clark, like a dick, just throws it as far as he possibly can.
Yep.
That dog just wanted to play fetch, man.
Yeah, and the dog's like,
No, I'm not going that far.
yeah, I'm not going that far.
It's like, come on. You don't know where the ball's going to end up. You could have killed somebody.
How do you feel about I guess the only thing would be the not used Marlon Brando stuff that they whip back up for this one.
I mean, it's fine. Obviously, iconic, Jor-El dialogue and that kind of stuff. So, I mean,
Because the funny thing
it's trying
is
so hard to be like one part of those series of films.
movies, yeah. The thing is that the footage, a lot of the footage that they got and they use in this and they weave into this was the stuff that they didn't use in the Superman 2. That he then reuses in the Donner cut.
Yeah. Classic, All right. Let us know what your thoughts are on Superman Returns by letting us know on Blue Sky at ExplosionNetwork.com or find us on other social media at ExplosionPod. If you want to help us out here at All New DC Cast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, leave us 5 stars and leave 5 stars, or just tell people about the show. And if you've enjoyed this episode, thought us with $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at ExplosionNetwork.com/support. Thank you very much for listening. Be sure to join us next time for another All New DC Cast.